Are you tired of feeling overlooked and underestimated? Hi, I'm Tammy North, the Introverted Executives Coach. If you're an introverted executive or you're ready to rise to senior leadership, but you're struggling to be seen as a high potential, this podcast is for you. As you rise and grow in your career, and as your vision of what you really want gets clearer and clearer, at some point you'll realize that if you really want to take that next step, that you'll end up leaving some parts of your life that you are currently leaving behind. And this can seem very scary and uncertain. And in many cases, you might even pass up on something that you really want and believe in due to the anxiety and fear that such a change will bring for you. You might think that there's a chance that your assumptions are wrong and that you will regret ever taking this risk. You might think your boldness to take a big chance on yourself will leave you in a worse place than you already are now. You might even think your plans will work out, but that you will end up alone. So we're going to really dig into that today. Are all of these thoughts really true, or are they driven from your amygdala? You know, your primitive brain, whose desire it is to keep you safe in the world that you already know now. What if not stepping into your highest potential self and not taking this next big step on your path is a much bigger risk? First, let me give you some examples of circumstances that you might find yourself in where you will begin to have these type of thoughts. One, you could find out about an opening for a position that you've been dreaming of and quietly preparing for a very long time. And even though it's in a different organization, you start to think about the team you're leading today, the colleagues you've built, the great relationships you have at this organization, the senior leadership team who's been providing some mentorship for you and that you've come to truly respect. You know the culture, you know how to manage the bureaucracy, you have more junior people that you are helping to grow and you love them and don't want to leave them. And even though you don't typically love large gatherings, there's a small group on your current team who goes to happy hour every now and then, and they grab a glass of wine on Thursdays. And as an introvert, you have come to love this one outing. It feels so casual and comfortable. You really love these people. You're sure you will never find this type of camaraderie ever again. Or maybe you think at least that it will take a really long time to build that kind of rapport again with a new team. Two, another example is, what if you've been living in a specific neighborhood for 7 to 10 years or longer, and you decide that it's time to move to a different house or even a new city in order to drive a new opportunity or to create a life you dream of living? And this could be in any sense of the word. This situation could drive these types of feelings. What if you leave behind awesome friends and neighbors? There's no way your new neighbors could be as wonderful. What if you're making a financial mistake? Or what if people start to judge you because they think you are too driven? Another example is if you still live in the same town or the same city where you grew up, or very near to a good amount of your family. That is a very powerful reason that you might have these feelings, and it's very understandable and relatable. I just ask you to examine the thoughts to check if you're having the fear of leaving this world behind because you really don't want to be away from your family, or are you unintentionally using that as a thought to keep you safe and to not be uncomfortable? I'm sure there are several other scenarios in which this fear of what you're leaving behind could sneak into your thoughts, and these are just a few that came quickly to my mind today, but I think you get the picture. I can tell you that in my life, there are so many times that this exact issue has come up. I grew up in a small town on the Colorado Plains, Fort Morgan, Colorado. It's a lot bigger now than it was 30 years ago. It's a thriving farm town 60 miles east of Denver. And I remember when I joined the Navy, the week I was leaving to go to boot camp, how much anxiety I had. I was both excited and scared. I had no idea what to expect. I was leaving behind everything I had ever known. My family, my dearest lifelong friends, the first car I ever bought for myself, the job I'd been working at for 2 years. I was only 19 after all. But in that exact case, I remember thinking that in that town, the only thing I could see as a strong career potential was to work at the school district or maybe starting a business of my own, which was in no way a plan of mine when I was 19. So I had big dreams and none of them included staying in that town. So I used the Navy as a pathway to build a life in a different place. And has an opportunity to explore the world. So what ended up happening? Even though I was scared to leave, I cried the night before I went to boot camp with my two best high school friends. Well, I ended up serving in the Navy for over 23 years. I met my husband. I have 3 amazing children, and I have seen so much of the world that the world seems small. And I still have close relationships with my entire family. I still have strong relationships with at least 2 of my very best friends, and I've developed some of the deepest, most meaningful relationships of my entire life after I left. Looking back now, I don't feel like I lost anything at all. I feel like my life has become one multifaceted experience of which I am proud, and I continue to step into that world every day full of excitement for what will come next. Another more recent experience I had was about 4 to 5 years ago when I discovered a promotional opportunity at a different large organization. I applied for that job with low expectations that I would actually be selected, but you know me, I always believe no one can tell you yes if you tell yourself no. And it turns out that I was called for an interview and that I was offered the job. And at that moment, the main issue was that if I said yes, I was going to have to leave a large organization where I had served for 9 to 10 years. That new position was strongly in my comfort zone. It was in the same city. It included a substantial pay raise, and I knew most of the people who would be in the new organization as well. But guess what? I actually turned down the initial offer. When they called and offered me the position, I turned it down. Why? Because when it came right down to it, I suddenly had a flash of fear that if I left that group of people I was working with, that if I left the senior leadership who'd given me so many opportunities over the years, that I would come to regret it for some reason that I didn't even know. But thank goodness, when I declined the offer, the new organization did give me a phone call and asked, is there any way I would reconsider, along with some inspiration regarding how I'd make a bigger difference in the new position. I eventually did accept that offer, that more senior position, and that turned out to be a direct stepping stone to the executive position I'm in today. And at the same time I changed positions, I thought it was highly unlikely that I'd ever be considered for such a role that I'm in today. When in reality, if I'd stayed where I was, I would have still been at least 10 years from a position like this in my previous organization. And what about all the people I left behind, all my friends, all of my mentors, the people who I loved and who I thought loved me back? Well, guess what? I still get invited to some of those small, tight-knit happy hours to have a glass of wine with people I adore. And I still have my mentors who inspire me, although now they're mentors and peers, and we get to work together all the time. And what I realize now, I didn't lose anything at all, but rather the entire experience has been additive and has made my career and my overall life a better place. So what's the problem with staying in a position or in an organization or a neighborhood or a city where you are too comfortable, especially if the life you want might be in a different city, organization, job, whatever? The issue is when you have an inkling of a dream, a bigger goal, a vision for your life that you could be living and actually do want to be living, but you decide that your friends won't understand or your family will be upset or you might lose some safety or security from, known colleagues or neighbors or friends. It's these exact thoughts that limit your opportunities and limit the full potential of your overall life and career. It's 100% okay for you to decide that you're going to stay where you are, and it's okay in every sense of the word. You have to do what's right for you. But I just want to make sure that you have clearly made that decision for yourself and that you aren't using the thoughts about what other people will think or just plain fear to hold you back. Don't just use comfort and security alone. So how do you know the difference? How do you know when you are holding yourself back with comfort? How do you know that you are holding yourself back for comfort and security alone? And how do you know that it's time for you to decide it's time to do something different? One good way to do this is to examine your thoughts, to really get clear on what you want, not what anybody else wants for you. Do you feel obligations pulling you in different directions, obligations from what others expect? Do your colleagues, friends, or family share their opinions with you or say things that make you feel guilty or even shame for wanting something bigger? And when you think about these expectations, do you want to meet their expectations or do you want something different for yourself? something different for your life. Maybe you want more autonomy, more freedom, or maybe you just want to live a different way that equals the life you want to live. I know one thing that I have felt in the past has come from when I have the feeling about leading major projects. So if I've been leading a major effort, for instance, in my previous organization, I was leading a major program. You might feel the obligation of at least achieving the very next milestone or keeping the overall effort on track. And you might think if you leave, things will get off track. And maybe just considering leaving when you are in charge of such a major effort, something that you're responsible for that is really big, that thought can be daunting. And you might feel like you're letting so many people down. I've thought in the past that people would judge me for the timing of my departure alone, and you might feel the same way. One way that I mitigated that thought was to prepare somebody else to step into my shoes. I always do this because I don't have the belief that I'm the only person that can do this job or they could do some other job. I actually believe that there's multiple people who are capable of doing my current job and other jobs, but they're going to bring their superpowers and I bring my superpowers, so we might do the job in a different way, but there are multiple people who are capable. And I also believe in abundance. So I'm not afraid to teach people how to do my job, because if I am going into the world with abundance and I'm training people to take over for me, should I leave? Or also just if I have a meeting, there should be people that could cover for me. Or if I have to travel, there should be people who can cover for me. So I don't have that fear. And I have heard at times some people do have the fear that if I train somebody else to do my job, then they're going to take over my job. Well, you can think about it like this. I hope so, because I'm still on my way up and I am not staying in this job forever. And it'll be easier to leave with a clear conscience if there's somebody else that you've already prepared to take over your position. So I always do this. I always have somebody or multiple somebodies who I attempt to mentor to take my place. And I know when I've found the right person, because that effort will continue to move forward even if I don't do anything else. And this allows that person to grow, and it also gives me freedom to think strategically and also to grow further as well. And I believe that positive organizational turnover, as people grow and expand their capabilities, is good for both the organization and for the people in the organization. Stagnation in one position, especially when there's a large percentage of stagnation across the entire organization, will slow the growth for the people that are trying to grow in the organization, and it will definitely slow the impact of the overall organization as a whole. So if this episode's resonating with you and you're feeling like you might be remaining too long in a situation that you have been wanting to change, and if you feel like it might be because you're afraid of what you are leaving behind, I have a free resource to help you analyze where you are now and where you want to be. This resource will also help you clearly define the next steps you need to take if you decide you are ready to change. Okay, so if that's you and you're ready to take that next step, then head down to the show notes and download the free resource that I've created just for you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with staying in a job, in a house, in a relationship, or an organization, or any other circumstance, as long as you have clearly decided that is what you want to do and that you love your reasons for doing so. It's a beautiful thing, my friend, when you decide on purpose to commit to something that you believe in and then go all in on that circumstance. What I don't want you to do is to want something so bad, something you have always wanted, and then when it is right there in front of you, to step back from it because you're afraid of what you'll leave behind. Especially when whatever you are most afraid of might not even be accurate. Create a full, rich life of experiences that you want to have. Show yourself what's possible, and believe that you are 100% capable of becoming the woman who boldly steps forward. You'll be amazed at who you become, and I think you'll find that your life will only become more abundant when you do so. You can connect with me at Introverted Executive on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you're ready for executive coaching to help you achieve your biggest career goals, subscribe to my weekly Rise and Shine newsletter. There, you'll find out when my program opens for new clients, and you'll also receive weekly tips and activities to continue to make a bigger impact in your own powerful way. You'll find all the information and links down in the show notes. See you next week.